much for tuning in to this wonderful episode of me discussing movies that I have watched. And today I am going to be discussing Pan's Labyrinth, this movie right here. It is from Guillermo del Toro. And so I just recently watched this a few days ago and I enjoyed it. It creeped me out. I was kind of anxious and scared. So I'm just going to make little comments here and there about the movie. This isn't like the biggest, like most professional review. I hope you watched my last one. Please go check out that video if you would like to. That would be really great. So, Pan's Labyrinth. Just a fair warning. Spoilers if you haven't seen this movie. And that's why off the bat I just say go see it. Okay, go find it, go rent it, go buy it, something. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Pan's Labyrinth. Pretty much it starts off, this girl is moving into a new home. She's getting a new dad that she doesn't even want to consider her dad. Her dad's not this great guy. Like, he's like a captain. They're like guerrilla wartime happening. It's kind of like in a historical period. And he's not a good guy. Like, the way he handles things is really ugly. Like, he's about brute force sort of thing. Really ugly. He actually did creep me out, so good job on acting on that part. But, like, yeah, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to see this, you know? What rating is this movie? Rated R, yeah. Oh yeah, this movie could totally be rated R. It was pretty ugly and creepy. There's like some like face bashing in, like seriously. So I'm trying to think. So the little girl is totally into fairy tales. They're always making comments about like, you need to grow up, stop reading these stories. You know, you're always getting into mischief. Why can't you behave? And she comes across a fairy very early on, moving into her home, like on the way into moving her home. It also goes on about, at the very beginning, it goes on about a story of a lost princess, and the king is waiting for his princess to return. And, honestly, like, there's a very creepy vibe to this movie, because, like, even the fairies, not that I would really consider fairies to be, like, I don't know, there's always, like, different backgrounds to different creatures, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was Fern Gully, where they were, like, fun, you know? And then, like, Tinkerbell was, like, kind of, like, mean, honestly. If you watch the original Peter Pan, she was freaking mean. So, a fairy comes along, and they don't speak. They speak in, like, a little fairy language, which, the movie's in Spanish, so they don't speak Spanish, they don't speak English, they speak a little fairy language. And the fairy's getting her attention, the little girl is drawn to this place. Then she meets this guy, which is, I'm gonna assume, is Pan. He's a fawn. He's kind of creepy, which again, like, the difference between him being a fawn creature and then you look at the Witch in the Wardrobe with Mr. Tumnus. He was a fawn, so he don't look like no nice, sweet Mr. Tumnus. Like, this guy's creepy, right? Can you trust him? There's a part where he, like, gets mad because he's not explaining things to the little girl. Little girl messes up, and he gets mad, like, oh my god, like, you failed. So, anyway, so this fawn comes along, and he tells her about how he knows she's the princess. That's why the fairies went to her. That's why she found that place. She's the princess, and he's promising her to live for eternal life if she like does these 3 tasks to prove that she's the princess, because she has to complete the tasks to prove that she hasn't been tainted by the human world, which basically is kind of like, it gets into it about like having like a true heart and like really caring for people, especially in the position that she was put in, right? With this new father of hers that is like really evil. There's a war going on around her, you know. So while I had never seen this movie, I had seen like images of this movie, clips from this movie. I would say it's very popular because I've heard of this movie. I just never got the chance to see it. And funny enough, there was this ugly creature that she comes across. And I was just like, ew, no, that's that thing that, like, I don't know what that is, but I've seen it. It's really ugly. Like, he has eyeballs in his hands, and, like, there he is. He's, like, actually on the back of the cover because he is pretty creepy and ugly and gruesome. So, okay, so that part of the movie, I was kind of mad. This is, like, one of those bits where, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just shows how much of a child she still is, I guess. But it was kind of upsetting. So she goes into this different realm of sorts, and the fawn tells her, if you see really delicious food, do not touch it, do not eat it, don't do it. But he doesn't tell her why. So, her being a little child, what does she do? She goes in there, she completes the task that she was supposed to do, but then she gets distracted by the food, which I'm like, I don't know, what would I do if I was a child? I don't know, maybe I would have eaten the food. I probably would have eaten the food, I probably would have died. So, he lends her 3 fairies to take care of her on this little task. And what happens? She doesn't listen to the fairies. Now all of a sudden we're going to Legend of Zelda mode where like you ain't listening to the fairy that's like, hey, listen, you know? They're like screaming at her like blah, 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 in their fairy language. And she ate a grape, she ate 2 grapes, and then like that creepy monster thing, like that creepy monster thing is there. Like I don't know why she wasn't just like, oh my god, it's right there, that thing is ugly. Like he was kind of like in a sleep mode, I guess. And if that thing was there, I would have like, no, you know what? If I was a child and I saw that thing, I would have done my task and ran out. No, that's not what she did. She did her task and she was just like, oh, nothing's happening. Let me eat 2 grapes. I'm like, oh no. I think I would have ran out of that place. So, what happens? The thing comes alive and it's like, and it has like 2 eyeballs on a plate, and then it gets the eyeballs and puts it in its hands, and then it's just like, I see you, like there's an eyeball on the hand, like, so anyways, oh my gosh, what happens? The fairies are just like, hey, turn around, oh my god, you gotta get out of here, like, look, and she ain't listening to these fairies freaking out. I have no idea why. I wonder if maybe it's like a Spirited Away moment, maybe, like where her, like the girl in Spirited Away, like her parents are like eating the food and just like, and then like the little girl is just like, come on parents, we gotta get out of here, what are you guys doing, let's go, I want to leave, and like they turn into pigs. That's what they get. So the little fairies are telling the little girl in Pan's Labyrinth, they're just like, oh my god, turn around, look what's happening, and then like she ain't listening, so the fairies try and stop the monster like from getting her. What happens? They get eaten. They straight up get their head bit off. I'm like, little girl, look what you did. You just had these fairies' heads bit off because you didn't want to listen to them like screaming at you. Come on now. So that was really upsetting, but it was also really creepy and ugly and gross. That monster is so she makes it out. There's a lot more stuff that happens in that whole scene. She makes it out. The monster almost gets her, even though the monster was kind of like slow. That part was kind of, I don't know. I don't know about that part. Like, it was a monster, but it was like moving all slowly. Like, obviously, like, why couldn't she have gotten away from it even faster than what she did? Which she took a while to get away from the monster. Like, her time was running out. She had like a time limit. Her time was running out, and like the monster's just like it couldn't even walk properly. You know, like a person on two legs. You know, the monster is just like, I see you with my hands. So I don't know, that whole scene, although it creeped me out, it was gross, those poor fairies. I don't know. I don't know. I think if I was a little kid, I'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm getting out of here. I don't know. It's a movie, guys. How realistic is this going to be? I don't know. So, that part was actually the second task that she needed to do. It wasn't even the first task, but the first task was like I like that part of the movie because it just again showed like how much of a kid she was, even though like she wasn't necessarily doing kid things. Like what happened was that she had to like do this task and she got really dirty, but like she needed to stay clean because there was like a party that was happening and her mom wanted her to impress her father. And so instead, like, it was really sad. It was like a sad part where like she got really dirty and she had to go to bed without eating, kind of thing. I would have to watch the movie again because that actual like part of the movie kind of confused me with the time, because I wanted to say that it was a separate day, but I could have been wrong, because why was she so tempted to eat those grapes? Like, was it because she was hungry because that was on the same night? I don't remember that being the same night. So I don't know. I'd have to rewatch that part again. Honestly, I would really like to rewatch this movie because I really enjoyed it in the end. I want to watch it again already. So one of the other things of this movie, which isn't a big deal, it's kind of like one of those points as to how they got into this position. Like, the little girl had a father who she says, "You're not my father was a tailor." Like, she's straight up telling that guy, and I'm like, yeah, because that captain guy is crazy. And we're kind of thinking, like, how did this mother get into this position with this captain guy? Because she's pregnant with his child. And like they're having a dinner party, and like the mom tells like a story about how they met, and like he like totally like shuts her down, like, why are you thinking that our guests are so interested in your silly stories? Like, he's just like a terrible guy. And yeah, so it's like one of those things where you want to know how she came into that position, and like criticizing her. She did not seem too bright. Why would you get into a relationship with a guy who was that ugly? Like, he straight up seemed terrible, and the wife was just taking it. Like, they called her, you know, wife and husband, and like, so when did they get married? Why did they get married? Why are they having a child? They're having a little boy, and like, they don't even know that they're having a little boy. The captain is just going on about like, oh, that's my son, and like, I forgot if it's the doctor that says like, oh, why are you so sure that it's a male? And he's just like, well, it better be a male because I need a son to like carry on my name. It's really ugly. So it's just like, whoa, like, what happens if like it was born a girl? Like, what's he gonna do in that situation? Like, a lot of like really horrible tone stuff is happening, right? To like give you like a picture of who this guy is. So while that part of the story, like how they got married, like, while you really want to know how that was even possible, it's not important to the story. The story is all about this little girl who is supposedly a princess, and you're waiting to find out, you know, if she gets to live in like her eternal kingdom. And she does. So the ending of the movie, either I like the ending of the movie, like either it was sad to these group of people, but then like you can see that she was in a better place, you know, so you know, you felt bad for this group of people. So what happens is there's another woman, Mercedes, that's helping take care of her. she is in cahoots with the gorilla people, and her brother is like one of their leaders, and she's secretly going behind the captain's back and like helping them out and whatever. She's also taking care of this little girl, and there's all this stuff that's happening. There's a third task. The little girl is trying to take her little brother to go to the eternal world with her, so she kidnaps her little brother and like takes it to the fawn, but the dad is still catching up with her, and really it all turns into like a sad mess, and he winds up killing her. And oh, so like, I don't know, this part was a little silly too. This part was a little silly. So the second task, she needed to collect a dagger. And then the third task, Pan says, oh, you just need to give me innocent blood. Just a little prick. He said, just a little prick. I mean, she's been trusting him this whole entire time. Although, like, obviously, like, he's really creepy. He says it in a really creepy tone. But, like, you've been trusting him this whole entire time. And all of a sudden, like, he says, like, oh, give the baby, like, a little prick of the dagger and, like, a little drop of blood. Like, he said, like, a little drop of blood, right? And now all of a sudden she's just like, oh no, like, the tone, like, oh, the fawn's gonna kill the baby. Earlier, like, Mercedes kind of says, like, oh, my mom always told me not to listen to fawns because, like, you know, they're kind of, like, amusing the little girl, like, oh, your fairy tales, sure, you're still believing in fairy tales. So Mercedes says, like, oh, when I was your age, my mother told me not to trust fawns. So now at this point, you think that the fawn's gonna kill the baby, and she's just like, no, and he's just like, fine, stay in this world then, bye, and he disappears again. And then the dad's right behind her. The dad takes the baby and kills her. It's really sad. It's really freaking sad, right? Ugly, like a bunch of ugly, crazy stuff. Yeah, no wonder this movie is rated R. Like, I would be surprised if it was anything less. So, the father tries to leave with the baby, and Mercedes and her group block him off. And, you know, he knows. He was just like, yeah, you caught me. I'm dead. Here, take my baby. So, of course, they take the baby because they want to protect the baby. And they go find the little girl. They find that she's dead. And Mercedes is crying. You know, this is the sad part. So, Mercedes is crying. You feel bad for her. But then the movie goes towards, like, it was true. All of it was real. So, what happens is, like, she, like, they say, like, her, like, king and queen, mother and father, they're like, oh, you actually passed that test because you gave your own blood instead of giving the blood of an innocent. So that was, like, the real task, and, like, Pan is there, and he's still kind of creepy, and he was just like, I knew you were the princess, and you completed the task, and now you can live here in eternal life, you know? So that's what's happening. So it's kind of a happy ending for her. You know, the baby's being taken care of. Mercedes is sad. So that's the really sad part. Like, you feel bad for her because to her, she's going to be dead. But, like, you know, as a viewer, you know that she's in a better place. You know, a place that she wanted to be in. And this was just such an interesting movie. It's a very great creature film, I think. And it creeped me out. Like, it was just, like, good. Like, it made me feel things, you know. Although I criticize some of the events that happened. Like, how did they get here? And why would she do that? And why would you trust the fawn and trust that creepy fairy? Still, the fairies were still creepy. So, it was a very interesting movie, but definitely not bad. I recommend it. I want to say, it says something about, oh, winner of 3 Academy Awards. So, I knew this movie was, like, well known. I just had never seen it. And, like, Guillermo del Toro, he also did Hellboy, which people weren't too excited about Hellboy or Hellboy 2. He also did Shape of Water. I have a lot to say about that movie, but his movies are very back and forth. So, I don't know. I enjoyed this one. Thank you guys for watching this video about my thoughts on this movie. And, I don't know. I guess this is where I'm gonna end it. I'm just, throwing out video ideas and putting my thoughts out there about movies because I love watching movies. And this is one that I enjoyed. And I say, yeah, you should totally go see it. If you haven't seen it yet, go find it and then see it because you gotta rent it. It's already been out since like 2006 or something like that. So, thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe to stay tuned for future content. And please like and share and put some positive, good stuff for my channel. That would be really great, guys. Until next time, bye.